Hey everyone, welcome back to the Hyperbolic Time Chamber. This is part three of my ayahuasca experience and journey. And I think this is going to be the last part. And really, what I wanted to cover in this video, in this episode, is just my thoughts and reflecting back on my experience, what I feel it did for me, and also just some thoughts on anyone else, if they're considering doing this work, what they might want to keep in mind and, be aware of. Looking back, honestly, it was probably one of the best things that I did for myself. Just because, as I mentioned in sort of video one and two, where I was at, I just didn't feel like I was able to figure out what I needed to do next just to get out of my own way, in a sense. I was just overthinking a lot of things and overanalyzing and just stuck in my, you know, previous way of operating. I'd want to do things, I'd have things I wanted to try, but I would just get stuck in this, well, what if this and what if that, and it's a negative feedback loop, really. But in working with ayahuasca, I came back feeling so much more clear, lighter. I didn't feel that same sense of agitation and sort of internal conflict, in terms of thinking through things and deciding on trying things or whatever the case may be, really. And it's interesting in that I've heard a lot of podcasts talk about ayahuasca, and one, I think, particular episode, or at least I heard this in the Joe Rogan podcast, where somebody had spoken to what psychedelics in general seem to sort of, do for people. And the analogy was, consider yourself to be, or your mind to be sort of a mountaintop, covered in snow. And as you go through life, you make grooves, on this mountaintop. You sort of develop patterns and roots that sometimes get so ingrained and so deep that you can't get out of them. So you're always going over those same roots again and again and again. What psychedelics seem to be, allowing us to do is, it's as if there's a fresh coat of snow, right? A fresh powdering of snow. And that then covers all these existing tracks that have been sort of ingrained and cut in so deep, and gives you sort of fresh terrain to, skate down. So, snowboard down, ski down, again, I'm using this analogy, but I think that really puts it very simply and accurately in how I feel. It really gave me the opportunity to clear my mind, clear my head of all the noise, and then feel like I can operate from a clean, light, truthful place. I found it to be wonderfully helpful, extremely educational, really eye-opening, and transformative. That's really just a simple way to put it. And I think what really made it be a successful experience for me was just the time I took with myself ahead of time, in preparation, right? So as I mentioned, I had been doing a lot of research on the topic. I was gathering as much information as possible through people's experiences, through, experienced healers like Don Howard. And there's just so much information out there, thankfully, that you can kind of lean on and look to get some insight on whether or not this plant medicine and this particular, psychedelic is a fit for you, right? So for me, it was all that legwork that I think really made it be a positive experience, because I had a pretty accurate idea of what was going to happen in terms of what this was going to include, really. So I wouldn't say I had any huge surprises, which was nice. Of course, you can never really prep for the experience, but you can be aware of what it entails, right? And I think that was really good for me in doing and having as I went into this experience. And I have to honestly say, I think a big part of that was Spirit Quest. There's a lot of sanctuaries out there, a lot of retreat centers. Psychedelic therapy has become much more well known and much more in the forefront of, I would say, Western culture nowadays. And so there's a lot of centers popping up, and there's a lot of places where you can get, the opportunity to work with ayahuasca. Having said that, I think I really did appreciate going to Spirit Quest and having my experience there and my first experience there because, as I mentioned, I think just having heard Don Howard speak about it, I really connected to it, and it felt right and it felt like a fit, and I was really thankful for that. And the staff there were fantastic. Selva, his daughter, is absolutely amazing, and all the maestros that were there, they've been doing this for a long time. Some of them generationally, from father to son, they've been apprentices, and they've kind of gone through the lineage of being healers and working with this medicine. So I really felt like I was in one of the best places possible for myself, right? And I met an amazing group of people that I'm actually still kind of in touch with, which was really great, and which is really great. And I think it all comes together to inform your experience, right? It's not just yourself, it's who you're working with and who you're there with and who's guiding you through it all. So all in all, it was a really positive experience for me, and I'm very thankful for it. I want to be very upfront with everybody. It is difficult work. It is not easy, right? It takes a toll on the body, and kind of gets you to a point where you experience profound healing if you're willing to go through that kind of threshold. And mind you, I'll also say that was my experience. I obviously can't speak to everybody who's ever worked with ayahuasca, but the general consensus seems to be that it is work. It is hard work, but with wonderful benefits on the other side of it, right? With that being said, I don't regret it for 1 second, and I'm extremely thankful for finding out about this plant medicine. And it's one of the reasons why I felt like I wanted to talk about this experience, because in a big way, and I talked about sort of learnings and messages. One of the things that I also took away from the retreat was what Selva had pointed out: is you've benefited a lot from this medicine, and from this particular plant. So take forward with you what you can also do to give back to the medicine and give back to the plant. And ultimately, all I can do is talk about it. At least at this point, whatever that's in my control is that I can speak to my experience and spread the word. If I were to really think of any advice or thoughts on anyone looking to do this work, looking to work with ayahuasca and this particular plant medicine, I would say, again, a lot of what I did, I would suggest you do your research, take time with this. Do not feel like you need to rush into this decision. I almost feel like taking your time with this will get you to a clear decision that you feel confident about, because that's how it felt for me. As I mentioned, I found out about it, but I didn't immediately do anything with it. I got the knowledge of, okay, there's this retreat center, there's this plant medicine, let me do research, let me sit on it. And then I kind of got to the point where I thought, okay, I think the timing's right. And so that's what I would really say in do the work, find out about it, do research, educate yourself on the topic, and consider the information out there, whether it's this video or any other people or any other videos. And I've linked a bunch of these videos in my previous video, and I'll be doing it in this video as well. Some of the interviews that Don Howard has had, and where he talks about the medicine and things like that, you might be helpful to you, so feel free to check that out. But there's also other material all across the internet, on YouTube, on podcasts, everywhere. So inform yourself of the topic and the plant medicine, and see if it makes sense to you. See if it fits sort of your current situation, or aligns to the things that you want to work on and what you feel like you're going to be willing to take in and tolerate. Right, because that's the other point that I'll reiterate is, and as you do the research, this will become very evident and very clear. This is definitely not one of the type of plant medicines that is, accessible in a leisurely way or in a recreational way. Just obviously the medicine itself, the way it's prepared, and what really its intent is to be very much a cleansing, healing process. So you need to commit to that and take your time and take the time with the medicine for it to work and for you to go through the experiences you need to go through, right? So really be mindful about that as you're electing to work with this plant medicine. Obviously, also consider the fact that there are some health aspects you do need to be mindful of, and this is covered during the application process, at least with Spirit Quest. It was in that if you have any predispositions to psychosis or any other conditions, you do want to tread mindfully and be aware of what side effects or what interactions you might have to deal with if you're on antipsychotics or antidepressants. There's a process and a conversation involved in the application process as to how you might need to wean off or what you might need to do to then be able or ready to work with ayahuasca, right? So a lot of things to be considered there. One other point that I want to make regarding ayahuasca and plant medicines and psychedelics as a whole is that nothing and none of these things are a panacea. They are not a single cure-all for everything. They help immensely, but really the work actually kind of begins afterwards, where you need to then work through certain things that you need help with and kind of fix certain habits and build certain good routines. So it's a very important piece, but if you're looking to do this work, know that this is not something that's just going to be a magic flick of the wand that gets rid of all your issues or all your problems or all your doubts. Or no, it's really not that. And it's something to be cognizant of as you're entering this work, because there might be a situation where you might be frustrated coming out of it, or even during the work, to be like, why am I not feeling these amazing things? Or we it's hard not to have certain notions when we're going into work with these kinds of plant medicines or any kind of thing, that especially when we're in a place where we need help and we badly just want to feel better, it's tricky not to let yourself get carried away in that this is gonna fix everything, this is gonna help. It's great to have hope, and I think that is 100% something that you should have as you're kind of entering this work, but just be practical in a sense that it's going to take you so far, and there's some legwork that you're going to have to do afterwards as well, right? And so that is something that I did want to just point out and call attention to. So that's really what I wanted to talk about. I hope this was useful. To anyone listening, if you have any questions, thoughts, comments, please feel free to drop a comment, because I can imagine having questions about this topic. And if you're in a place where you're considering wanting to work with this plant medicine or get any kind of help in this realm, if I can help out, I'd love to give you any information that I can and share with you anything that might be helpful. If you like the video, please, of course, feel free to drop a like, and subscribe to the channel if you want to keep on top of some of the topics and the materials that I'm talking about and sharing. All right, well, that's it for this video. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one.